Hi, I'm Kaylin James. We are so excited you've joined us today. Welcome to the Florida State Minority Supplier Development Council Virtual 37th Annual Business Expo. We're so pleased to have as our special guest Charlie Garcia, an accomplished leader in business, government, and education. He's worked for 5 U.S. presidents and serves as a strategic advisor to some of the world's most important business, military, nonprofit, and political leaders. Charlie founded Sterling Financial, a privately held financial services firm that grew to 60 offices in 7 countries. Its U.S. operations were sold to a public company, and UBS bought its Latin American offices, which grew to over $3 billion in assets in 2012. The company was previously certified with the Florida State Minority Supplier Development Council. The firm was rated by Inc. magazine as the 8th fastest growing private company in America, and Garcia was awarded Entrepreneur of the Year by 3 national organizations. He served as chairman of the board of directors of Empire Avenue Inc., a digital currency and social media company doing business in more than 200 countries. Garcia also served as one of the youngest members on the board of directors of a Fortune 500 company, the Winn-Dixie supermarket chain. Now, he is at the helm of R360. R360 is a by invitation only group of leaders who have attained a net worth of over $100 million, and they desire to use their abilities, wealth, and knowledge to leave an enduring legacy. Charlie serves on multiple boards, including the National Board of Junior Achievement and Girl Scouts of the USA. He attended the Air Force Academy and has a JD from Columbia Law School. Charles authored 2 books, A Message from Garcia and Leadership Lessons of the White House Fellows. Charlie, we are so excited to have you, and thank you so much for being our special guest today.
Thank you for having me.
Our theme for the Business Expo is Formula for Success. What has been your strategy for success?
Well, first, whatever the business enterprise is going to be, very focused on purpose. What is the why of why we exist? What are we trying to solve for? What are the values of the company? Because success is about people, product, and process. And to hire the right people, you're looking for individuals that are bringing their passion and their purpose to work, and you're bringing on A players. And you want to have a product or service that has a deep answer to why you exist. And then you want to have a disciplined process to grow and scale and be successful. And I think those are the 3 most important things.
Now, you said that people are such an important formula for success. We're in the middle of the Great Resignation due to this pandemic. How did you find the right people? And how do you even attract the best talent?
So, I taught at MIT for a few years, and I use behavioral analytics to hire individuals. So we will scope out a position, and the number one character of success for hiring is cognitive. It's how smart someone is, the experience they have. But the second, which is often overlooked, is the behavioral fit for that role. So once we design that, if we have 500 applicants for the position, we will narrow it down by having the individuals take the behavioral assessment. We use something called the predictive index, which they can take in 5 to 7 minutes. And maybe there's 12 that have a perfect fit. And those are the ones that we'll call in for an interview. And then that's where we focus on the cognitive part, the experience, and most importantly, a values fit. Okay. So at our current firm, R360, we have 6 values, and we make sure that each of the individuals really fit our culture and our values. They have the behavioral fit, and obviously they have the experience.
Let's hope we can all use those tactics to find great people. You really make it sound so simple and achievable. Now, you've accomplished so much in your career. Tell us a bit about how you became a White House Fellow and about this prestigious program.
So the reason, I saw an ad when I was about 24 years old, and I ordered a brochure And every night before going to bed, I would look through the brochure and I would see these incredible people saying, "Gosh, there's just no way I could do this." And I just, every night I just put it in my head, and I think I just manifested it and started doing the things that I needed to do. So by the time I was 27, 28, I had a profile that looked like some of the other ones, and I applied, and I was fortunate to get selected.
That's awesome. It's really a rigorous process, and we know that so few are selected for this program, so your tenacity really paid off. As a result, you wrote the book, Leadership Lessons of the White House Fellows. What leadership lessons would you like to share with our audience from your experience and from interviewing 200 or more White House Fellows like General Colin Powell and Doris Goodwin? What did you really learn from interviewing such prominent and accomplished people?
There was about 20 different, lessons that I highlighted in the book. One of the important things is people that are successful understand what they're passionate about and what their purpose is. And it's different, right? Passion are things that give you energy, and purpose are how are you using your God-given gifts to make the world a better place, people's life easier. And if you can be self-aware of your passion and purpose and take both of those to work, it's proven that you're going to be much more successful. So I've always tried to align. My life purpose is to inspire and connect others to achieve extraordinary things. And it takes three of my God-given gifts. And if it doesn't fit in that framework, I won't do it. Because I know that if it's something that I love to do and I'm really good at and I'm passionate about it, I'm going to survive the ups and downs of entrepreneurship.
You had the opportunity to work with 5 presidents, both Republicans and Democrats, to make a difference in our country. Now, how is that possible in a world where the social and political discourse is so harsh? I mean, it must have been really difficult to work with both parties, right?
I'm an independent, and I remember taping a pilot for CNN called Red, White, and Blue. I was white, and then I would invite a Democrat and a Republican, and I would give them both a hard time and express my own views. So I don't like labels. What's the right thing to do? Listen to as many people. Don't be focused on labels, Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal. Just go in there and try to serve the leaders that you work for in a great way and really be neutral and independent.
Well, they say no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, just common interests. We can all learn from having friends and work in relationships with diverse people to have a greater influence. You are a serial entrepreneur and you've founded successful businesses. What strategies did you use to grow your companies?
Well, I've gotten smarter in my old age. Bill Aulett, A-U-L-E-T, is the head of entrepreneurship at MIT, which produces more entrepreneurs than even Stanford. And he wrote a great book analyzing companies, what made a startup successful. And he identified 20 different tools. And I have followed those with a disciplined approach before even launching a company and doing a lot of testing. There's another book called Talking to Humans, which is written for engineers. And it's really before you launch your great new idea to really do a lot of background research and testing and have a really good idea that it's something the market really needs and is going to succeed.
Yes, market meeting demand and ability to make a profit. That's really what businesses are striving for.
What's the pricing models going to be and who's your market? And it's really important to choose the right space that you're going to play with and really understand that market really, really well.
Why is entrepreneurship so important to build wealth for minorities?
The reason is that you cannot accumulate great wealth unless you have an opportunity to really increase the the wealth based on the success of an enterprise. If you're working on an hourly basis, you are limited by what your salary is or your hourly pay. If you start an entrepreneurial venture, I mean, you have no limits on how well you could potentially do. And the trick is to create, growing cash flow that's growing month to month, quarter to quarter, year after year. And that's really the way that you accumulate great wealth.
The last 2 years have been very challenging for businesses, but particularly minority companies. What advice would you give to our business owners as they continue to navigate and build their companies and build wealth?
I would have them remember the story of the 20-mile march. There was a famous explorer, Shackleton, and they were competing with another team of like the best explorers, and they were going to the South Pole. And Shackleton would go 20 miles a day, rain or shine. The other team, if it was a nice day out, they'd go 50, 60 miles. If it was a bad day, they would stay in. Well, that group didn't survive. They all died. And the one that had the discipline to march 20 miles every day, rain or shine. So in our companies, I don't care if there's a depression, pandemic, we have the discipline to do what we're going to do every single day. No excuses. And creating that discipline, I think, is what really makes you successful. And if a pandemic hits and you need to pivot, then you pivot and you figure it out. And have a lot of mentors that you can talk to, and a lot of other business colleagues you can talk to that can help you figure out how to pivot. How do you do it?
This is such great advice, Charlie. Many large corporations are establishing new minority supplier development programs as a result of the pandemic and a focus on racial and economic disparities. What message do you have for the private and public sectors about what they can do to support diverse business owners?
I've given 72 presentations to Fortune 500 CEOs and their management teams called the New Latino Paradigm. And, I sat down with them and I said, look, in the next 30 minutes, in order to understand what's going on here, you just have to be good at math. And I'm not going to mention the word diversity or inclusion in the next 30 minutes. This is about math. It's not about social justice. And if you look at the amount of money that the people of color community are generating for Fortune 500 companies, is massive. I mean, I was, in Cambridge, 75, 80% of the K-12 are African-American and Latino students, and they're graduating and going to college and going into the workforce. So if they want to recruit the best talent and they want to sell products and services to customers, increasingly they're people of color. So we have math on our side, and facts have no emotions. So I always try to go in not leading with kind of, this is the right thing to do, but if you want to stay in business and make money, you want to be selling to our communities, and therefore you want to be buying from our communities. And it's a very simple message that they can understand. And that's been my approach in talking directly to, the highest levels of these companies.
That's great info, Charlie. We're so glad you were in those rooms talking to the CEOs about the importance of diversity and minority businesses, the buying power of minorities on their bottom line of their companies. Tell us about R360, an organization that is focused on collectively harnessing financial, intellectual, social, and human capital to do good. Why did you establish this organization?
So what I saw in the last 2 years is there's very, very big problems in the world. And I want to focus entrepreneurs who have created great wealth and are very philanthropic and have a value of generosity of spirit to solve some of the world's most intractable problems. So there's a Latino couple, did not graduate from high school. They grew up really, really poor, but they had an entrepreneurial gene within them, and they created an amazing company that a few years they sold, and now their net worth is about 500 million. And
Wow.
what I've tried to do is say, look, you have more wealth. There's no way that you could ever spend this in your lifetime. Instead of trying to create more wealth, take a third of your time, focus on your investments, a third on your family and things that you're passionate about, and then take a third of your time and your money and find something in your local community, in the country, and globally, a big problem that you want to attack, and create a foundation and either create some white space and you go attack this, or find 4 or 5 or 6 social entrepreneurs that, if you're passionate about taking plastics out of the ocean, there's 5 or 6 great social entrepreneurs already doing that. Join their board, give them a large gift, and take your entrepreneurial skills and help them grow. So I felt that there was this huge opportunity to do that, and we've connected. We already have 75 members globally, and I'm just really excited about bringing their entrepreneurial mojo to solve some of these very difficult problems that sometimes it's difficult for governments or foundations that aren't properly staffed or resourced to do.
I am so excited to hear about what you're doing with R360, and I know the rest of the people watching are too. And we're looking forward to seeing what impact you'll have in the U.S. and globally. We're coming to the end of our conversation, and I only have a few more questions left for you. We want to get to know the man, Charlie Garcia, better. Who has had the biggest influence on your life?
Look, I would say that my current wife, Cristina Avila, she's from Ecuador, and we've been married for quite some time, and she's my soulmate. And I think that being an entrepreneur is extremely stressful, and having a partner that's super supportive is helpful. So I would say Cristina.
Okay, you interviewed over 200 leaders for your book, Leadership Lessons of the White House Fellows. What was the funniest or best story that you can share with our audience about your interviews?
Well, I think Colin Powell, I had to submit the questions in advance, and he said, "Oh, you don't need to interview me. Read this book about me. It answers those 10 questions." And then I sent him 10 more questions, and he said, "Oh, well, you're obviously not prepared, because if you would have read this and that book, it answers those." So I called up White House fellows that had worked for him, and I said, give me a question that if I asked Colin Powell on a televised interview, he'd get so upset he'd stand up and leave. So I sent a collection of those questions to him, and he said, "Oh, I see you're finally ready for an interview, and you've done your homework." So he finally granted me the interview, and such a great leader to do something that really showed me, hey, if you're going to interview important people, you should be really prepared.
Wow, General Powell really made you work for that interview and do the homework. And we're learning that we need to do more of that every day. So now, tell us what you do for fun.
I love to surf, and in my old age that it's harder to get out at these big waves, I just discovered recently something called wake surfing. It's a special boat that has like a really big wake, and you just hold a rope like you're skiing, you get up on a surfboard, you pull yourself to the wake, and you can literally surf for about 15 minutes, either in the ocean or a river. So I love to do that. I love to read. I love to ski, which is why I'm in Boulder. I love to go for walks and travel.
You're meeting with Fortune 500 CEOs, teaching at some of our top colleges and universities, and now you've established R360. Charlie, what's next for you? What is your next big thing?
The next big thing is unusual, perhaps, and that is focusing on my wife, my 3 daughters, my son, and now I have a grandchild. So I am so busy being me. I'm very purpose driven, that perhaps I'm not busy enough being who I should be. So I asked my 4 children, what have I done well as a father, and what are opportunities to do better? And without exception, one-on-one, they said, Dad, really proud of you. You're out there saving the world, doing all these great things. But what about me? When's the last time that we went on a vacation together? And for that matter, when's the last time we went on a family vacation together? And I think as an entrepreneur, I've been so focused on using my gifts to help others that sometimes we forget that we have a family, and the people that we most love, we don't spend enough time with. So I am rearranging my whole life to really spend quality time with the people that I most love. And it's been a challenge for me, quite frankly. So that's my next thing that I'm trying to conquer.
Well, first things first, you got to keep family first. I'm so glad your family was so honest with you in all of that. All of us are really trying to find the right balance between work, business, and family. So this is very inspiring indeed. As our time comes to an end, are there any closing remarks or anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
Look, I think that in order to really leverage the value of supplier diversity programs, you need to be part of organizations like the NMSCC, like the council. You have to understand who are the companies in the billion-dollar roundtable, who are the points of contact at those companies, and you really have to work it. And you also want to talk to your fellow entrepreneurs who are also diverse CEOs, and you would be shocked at how helpful they will be. And if they're already doing business with a Fortune 500 company, they're happy to introduce you and open the doors to you. So I highly encourage you to join these organizations, leverage them, and also network with fellow entrepreneurs that have already broken the code, that are more than happy to help you. And then when you break the code, make sure you give a helping hand to those that are behind you.
Charlie, thank you for taking the time to be our guest today and for sharing your amazing insights with our audience. Also, we want to thank the attendees for joining us for the 37th Annual Business Expo. Lastly, but not least, thank you to the sponsors, board of directors, staff, and partners for making this event possible. Just heard from Charlie Garcia, the managing partner of R360. I'm Kaylin James, and it's always my pleasure to serve as your host. Enjoy the rest of the Business Expo.